Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little bit since I've uploaded a video. I was getting ready for SHOT Show, going to SHOT Show, and then spent 2 weeks being sick after SHOT Show. So video schedule got put on hiatus. This might take a little while for me to make this video because I'm still coughing from stupid COVID, and I'll have to cut every time I have a coughing spasm or fit come along. So getting right down into it today, we are going to take a look at a gun from a company you've probably never heard of called ZRO Delta, and this is part of their Range Ready series of rifles. Now, you may have heard of the company that makes the optic, US Optics. They've been around for years. Well, ZRO Delta is the same company, and they have a few other brands like unbranded AR for AR parts. They're out of North Carolina. Full disclosure, I was sent this gun for T&E, so I did not pay for it. I will have to either return it or pay a discounted amount to keep it. If you don't know what T&E is, it's testing and evaluation. This is pretty normal in the industry. Also, another disclosure, I do know some people at the company, specifically the marketing guy, which is how I got connected to have this gun sent for T&E. We are friends. So, I mean, the reality is I'm not going to hammer on his company. If I didn't like the gun, I thought it was crap, I probably would have just sent it back and not made a review, which is sometimes what happens in the review industry, but you know, you do want to keep friends. So spoiler alert, this gun is not crap. I do like it, and I like it for a number of reasons, and we'll get right into it now. I have a tendency to forget some details, so I'm just going to read off the website the specs, and then we'll be talking more about the gun. First off, it is a 70-75 forged receiver set with full ambidextrous controls optional. We'll be talking about that. It is a 14.5-inch barrel pinned and welded with their muzzle brake and this little blast diffuser. They call it a top hat muzzle brake, pinned and welded to 16 inches, 1 1/8 twist, 223 wild barrel, which does actually accept 5.56 and standard 223. 223 wild is something that you see a lot in the professional shooting community or the competition shooting community. It's permanently pinned to 16 inches, top hat muzzle device with blast shield, ELG fire control group, so it's a mil-spec fire control group, 16-inch free-floating LVOA rail, mission first minimalist stock and grip. The weight with optic is 8.1 pounds. Overall length is 32 to 35 inches. Has the ZRO Delta cantilever mount, and it either comes with a micro T1 or US Optics TS 1-8 low power variable optic. So what that means is this gun, as it sits here, is exactly how it comes. And something that I've seen a lot with you know, people getting into firearms is they don't know where to start. So to see a company that actually has put together a range ready or a ready to go package, including optic and mount, and the optic was bore-sighted, laser bore-sighted, so it's pretty close out of the factory, is nice to give you a, you know, new shooters something that they can just pick up out of the box. They don't have to go do research on optics and all that, and go ahead and have something that is ready to shoot. So also, we're going to have to talk about the optic because the gun does come with the optic, but before we get into that, the price for the whole setup right here is $1,900. And I actually think that's super reasonable to get a full complete gun with an Ambi lower. So it's got an Ambi mag release, or I'm sorry, an Ambi mag catch, and an Ambi bolt release to have this cantilever mount and a 1 to 8 inch low power, 1 to 8 power low power variable optic mounted on top. It's actually a pretty good deal for under $2,000. So not a bad setup to get overall and be out of the box. So when you first look at the gun, one of the things you're going to notice is this rail, and it kind of looks like a 7-sided M-LOK rail, but it's not. It actually only has M-LOK slots at the 3, the 6, and the 9 o'clock with Picatinny on top. It is a little bit thicker than a normal 7-sided M-LOK, which is not a big deal to me because if you're used to running quad rail, this is going to feel very, very slim, and the wall thickness on the aluminum gives me some confidence that if I were to mount a light or a laser up front, that this rail isn't going to twist. And one of the other things that they've added, which I think is nice when companies do that, is at the back of the rail they have two little tangs that stick out the back to make sure that the rail itself stays centered and doesn't twist as compared to the upper. So I appreciate it when companies have little details like that. But one of the drawbacks to it is the way that this handguard actually encapsulates the muzzle device, which we're going to talk about in a second, and this little blast diffuser that they've got in here. So one of the things on ZRO Delta is right now they're only offering a 14.5 inch pin and weld and a 16-inch gun. They do offer on their Mission Ready series a 9.8 inch gun as an SBR, but as of now they're not offering any pistols. So if you wanted to get anything under 16 inches pinned and welded, you're going to have to wait. However, I did see on their Instagram and got it confirmed by Eli, who works over there, that they will be offering pistols soon, just in time for the ATF probably to ban pistol braces. So we'll find out how that works out. So right now, you're only going to get 14.5 or a 16-inch gun, which is fine for most people's first gun. Also, you know, max velocity on the round and whatnot. But yeah, having this rail encapsulate the muzzle brake means that if you want to upgrade this gun in the future and add a suppressor to it, you are going to be limited to suppressors that are under about 1.5 inches in diameter. Plus, it's pinned and welded, so you're going to have to take it to somebody who knows what they're doing to break off that pin and weld, put a new muzzle device on it, and re-weld it and re-pin it. Now, getting to the muzzle device, they call this their top hat and muzzle brake, and then they put this blast diffuser over it. I'm going to say right now, I'm not a big fan of muzzle brakes in general on 5.56 guns. I just don't see there being much need for them. There's just not that recoil, that much recoil from the round to get started. But then also, I noticed companies doing this where, like on the Maxim Defense PDX, where they have a brake, but then they put a diffuser over it that takes all of the gas and pushes it out the front of the gun. So not only are you going to have a very big flash, a big muzzle flash coming out of the front of this gun, but all of these gases are going to be sent straight out the front. So if you think about a muzzle brake, it's supposed to take those gases and vent them to the side and vent them up to counteract the recoil of the gun. Well, now they've taken a diffuser and taken all that gas and put it out the front of the gun. I think it kind of counteracts any benefits you're going to be getting from the brake. But it's something that I think companies think looks cool and maybe did it in the past. But with the advent of hopefully the E-Form 3 on suppressors speeding things up, I think people are just more and more going to be migrating to cans in free states because we aren't savages. And having a gun that accepts a muzzle brake and more suppressors is going to be more beneficial in the future. But overall, it's a great gun. I forgot to mention it is a mid-length gas system. So if you're not familiar, there's like pistol length, carbine, mid-length, and rifle length gas systems. Longer gas system means better dwell time and also means a smoother shooting gun. So while the brake may make it seem have a little more recoil, having the mid-length gas system might mitigate that back and forth. I don't know. Overall, it's a smooth shooting gun. I just did notice a very, very big blast and flash coming out the front end of this brake. Now moving on back, the upper is pretty standard. It's a pretty standard forged upper. There's really not a lot to talk about. It is machined well. I don't see any machine marks on it after going through the process. So, I have no complaints about the upper. The BCG, they make their own BCG. Seems to work fine. I had no failures to feed or failures to fire or any failures whatsoever. Bear in mind, I only have about 750 rounds on this gun, so I can't tell you long-term reliability. And that's a funny thing too. In the gun industry, you'll see a lot of people say, oh, this gun's super reliable. And you ask them how many times they've shot it, and they said, oh, 500 rounds. Well, I don't think you can test a gun's reliability in anything under 1,000 rounds, but you can discover if a gun is unreliable in under 1,000 rounds, if that makes sense. So 750, no issues whatsoever. I wouldn't expect to have any, but it has worked out very, very well. Getting down to the lower, this is where it gets really cool, because now, for a brand new gun owner to be able to buy something out of the box and have a full Ambi lower is pretty exciting, especially in a complete gun under $2,000, because up until this point, you know, you've had, you know, CAC has their Ambi system, Radian has their Ambi system, and Ambi lowers have been pretty much regulated to, you know, guns that cost more than 2,000 bucks are hard to get. Typically, they're going to be billet lowers. I don't really care if a lower is made out of billet or made out of a forging. There's benefits to both. But having a full Ambi lower in this price range is pretty cool. So on the right side of the gun here, you can see that just below the ejection port, there is a bolt release. So all you need to do is push this button here, as opposed to hitting your, what I've heard people call the ping pong paddle on the other side, and you're going to close your bolt release. Now, there is no catch option. You can't flip it up. I think it's on the Radians or maybe the ADM UICs where you can flip it up and catch it open. So if you want to hold the bolt open, you're still going to have to hit the ping pong paddle on the left side to hold that open. But this is nice. Personally, since I'm a righty, this is not a big deal to me because I am used to doing everything on the left side of the gun. And I tried to do it a few times. I fumbled. Honestly, the Ambi nature of the bolt release is not a big deal. It's not something I'm going to use. But if you're a lefty and you want it, it's nice to have that option in a sub $2,000 gun. Moving up here to the top again, we have an Ambi charge handle. So this is a full Ambi gun and Ambi safety. This is like a mil spec, like the Colt style Ambi. So it is only 90 degrees. You do not have like the Radian option to switch it over to a 45. It is pretty stiff, and the right side paddle is the same size as the left side paddle. So for righties, when you're putting this safety on, you'll notice as I do that, it does have a tendency to dig into my finger a little bit. It's not bad, but it does get in the way. So I would have appreciated a smaller safety lever on the right side of the gun. Coming over to the left side of the gun, you do have an Ambi mag catch. So right here, if you wanted to hit that with your thumb, like I said, I'm a righty. I'm used to living in a righty world. It's built for me. So I do tend to use the mag catch on this side. I really haven't gotten used to doing this. It doesn't really make sense for me, but for a lefty, I can see that being a good feature there. Now, moving down to the trigger. It is a mil spec trigger, and I measured it at about 5.5 pounds over 10 pulls, and it is every pound of that. So it's not a good trigger, it's not a bad trigger, it's a standard mil spec AR style trigger. Reset is a real mil spec clunk. I mean, it's a real thunk right there. And then you're right back on it, single stage trigger. So it's not good, it's not bad, it's just a standard mil spec trigger. I would definitely be upgrading that. Okay, moving down to the grip. This is where I would definitely say things start to fall apart. The grip angle I do like. I do like a little bit more of a vertical grip angle, like the, the Reptilia Corp CQBR or the B5 systems. A more vertical grip angle, which is nice, and they have that on this gun. However, the stippling leaves a lot to be desired. It's injection molded, it feels cheap, and it's very, very slick. So I would definitely be swapping this grip module out. And same goes for the stock. This hook style, I know it's supposed to be lightweight, but there's not a QD slot on it. Well, I take it back. There is a QD slot on the bottom, but I'd prefer a QD slot on the back for a sling. There are these sling holes, so if you're not going to be using a QD mount, you can wrap your sling through there. But it's not a very comfortable design, and it doesn't really lend itself to being super functional. So I'd probably swap that off for a B5 systems, or hell, even like a Car 15 style stock. But yeah, it does the trick. It's just not the best. Now, moving up to the top of this range-ready ZRO, we have a US Optics TS 1-8X. So it's a 1-8 power, low power variable optic on a ZRO Delta mount. And this is what I think really sets this gun apart outside of the Ambi, the Ambi lower features, is to have a complete ready to go package out of the box. Like I said, I've already said it's under $2,000. It's $18.99. You can also get it without the Ambi lower, which subtracts $200, and you can get it with just a red dot on here, which is going to subtract a few $100 more. So I think the base price is like $14.99 for a gun with a red dot and non-ambi lower, but for $400 more, you have a 1-to-8 power, low power variable optic, and the ambi lower. So this optic I really like. I actually have one mounted on another gun of mine, and I just think that as low power variable optics, LPVOs, keep on improving, we're going to see more and more magnification in the same size, package, and weight. So whereas a few years ago, you know, a 1-to-4 would be pretty common, and then 1-to-6, I think 1-to-8s and 1-to-10s now are going to become the new standard. So this optics is very nice. It has a built-in BDC for shooting 5.56 out of an AR. For me, I like BDCs. I don't really know mils. I'm not going to use MOA, especially when I'm only shooting out to about 300-400 rounds. Having a bullet drop compensator or bullet drop computer BDC reticle built in takes the guesswork out of it. I just look at the number, that's the yards, and put rounds on target. So this 1-to-6 is very nice. It is a first focal plane optic, which means the reticle will change size as you zoom in and zoom out. Also bear in mind on first focal plane optics, it can be really hard to see the etched reticle without illumination when you're out on 1 power. But once you go up to 8 power, it's going to work fine. A couple things about it too. The illumination knob, it is set so that it has off settings in between each illumination setting, which I really like. So if I really want to set it at, let's say 4 illumination, and it has 6 settings, okay? I can have it between 4 and 5, and that will be off, and then click it over to 4 or 5, and the illumination will be on. The glass is clear, the BDC reticle is clear, it works well. The eye relief is maybe a little short, so this is, I'm fully zoomed in, and I'm starting to get some shadowing here. It's clear, clear, and now I'm getting a shadow again. So you do have to stay within a pretty defined area, but it's comfortable enough. And if I were to keep this gun and be shooting it a lot, I'd probably do like an offset red dot, and I just leave the LPVO cranked all the way up to max power. So overall, a very good gun. It's a great gun out of the box. I would say there are a few things that I would improve, but there's really a few things I'd improve on most guns. So for you to be able to get this, oh yeah, I forgot, it comes in a bag, and it comes with 1 Lancer mag, which works well. Stock up on mags. You can never have too many magazines. So anyway, positives on this gun: price. It's an ambi lower, which I still can't believe that you're getting an ambi lower and a 1-to-8 power LPVO at the price that you're gonna get here. But like I said, if I were to keep this gun, I would definitely upgrade the stock, upgrade the grip, change the ambi safety, because I really like the Radian 4590, and upgrade the trigger. So, and also change out the muzzle device when you're shooting long distance. So I was taking this out to quote-unquote long distance, 300 yards. When I got into the prone position, this muzzle device blew so much dirt and dust, you could actually see ripples in the ground after shooting a few shots. And it also made follow-up shots really difficult. So that's another thing with brakes that I'm not really a big fan of, is when you get near the ground, it's going to kick up a lot of dirt, dust, and rocks. So, you know, following your holds is can definitely be a little bit difficult. But after upgrading your muzzle device, the stock, grip, trigger, and maybe the safety, you would have a very, very, very nice gun. And there's really not a lot that's left to be desired on it. And then you'd be fully kitted out, add a light, add a sling. You could be fully kitted out at like, you know, $2,500, maybe $2,700 if you add an offset red dot, get like a hollow sun or something on there. and you'd have a very nice setup at a very, very good price. So overall, ZRO Delta, you make a very good gun. However, this for me, I'm not going to keep because there's too many things that I'm just not a huge fan of, but what I will do is get a separate Ambi lower. Because if you go to their website, you can buy an Ambi lower for 119 bucks with the Ambi mag catch and Ambi bolt release, and add that to different guns. So I will say, if you go to their unbranded AR website, they've got stuff on there if you don't want any branding on it, or you can buy it directly from ZRO Delta. It's the same company. 120 bucks, Ambi lower. That's a smoking deal, and you can do a lot of cool stuff with that. So overall, great gun, great for beginners. I love the optic, and it handles well, works very well. Just a couple of things that you may want to update.